Yeah, really. Thank you for not
We actually have a
videotaping.
really good fun afternoon planned.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So, welcome everybody. We're here in Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, and it is Thursday. It's Cabaret Day in the State House, and it's Thursday, April 13th. And we are focusing in the next 3 days on workforce development and economic development asks, and working through our workforce development bill that has come to us from the House, and piecing together the economic development asks, which are all over the place because there is no omnibus economic development bill. So today, to kick off our workforce development testimony, we have Ellen Kaler, who is, as everyone knows, the executive director of the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund, and we are talking about section 11 of H484, which is the budget. So Ellen, would you be kind enough, and I'm going to pull out my bill so that we can chat about it, but if you'd be kind enough to
Sure. And
us.
have you heard from the Energy Action Network folks, or Dylan, what's his last name, Giancosta,
Giambattista,
and all that on this, I think it's
we have
section
heard
10.
from
No.
almost nobody. We just
Okay.
got the bill. We just
got
have
it.
done the
Okay,
walkthrough.
Okay.
And today we are really focusing on both, and we do not have as much time as the House has, you know, which is always a frustration. So I would encourage us to pull out section 11, which is not necessarily how we have been given everything. We have it in our spreadsheet with the money under section 11, and we have it, and it is an ask, as I recall, passed out of the House at $180,000. So if you'd be kind enough to fill us in on what that is and what that will accomplish.
So thank you for the record, Ellen Kaler, Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund. So as you know, the House Commerce Committee worked on the workforce bill, H484, and Senator Rahm actually had approached, as well as Representative Stebbins had approached Energy Action Network, and
Right.
There's a group focused on trying to develop a climate related and energy related workforce, because what we know is as we're trying to expand weatherization, we're trying to get more solar installed, we're trying to get more HVAC systems that are efficient, we're trying to change out certain types of heating sources into electric, all of those kinds of things. You need workers who actually are trained to be able to do that work. And the feeling is, what we've been hearing from contractors and others, is that there's a lack. There's, just like every other industry, there's a lack of workers. So I believe it's section 10 speaks to what Advanced Vermont will be coming in to talk to you about, which
Right.
is
So
about
that's
trying to expand
Page
the,
14 and 15 of the bill.
so I'm not going to speak to that because you'll hear from Tom, but
We're
the
hearing from
intention, there's two pieces that we provided to Senator Rahm and brought to the House Commerce Committee, which is this idea of how do we build the pipeline of high school and college age kids to know about the kinds of careers that are in this so-called climate and energy workforce. And then the piece that we were offering up as part of this coalition effort was to try to work with the actual businesses that are in the field. And in the particular case of section 11, two different types of businesses existing. So general contractors,
Right.
small shops that have the ability to pivot and expand into doing more solar install, more HVAC installs that are efficient, more green building energy interfacing, for instance, who are small, but have the ability to scale more up to meet the growing demand, but may lack some of the organizational needs of that business. They don't have the HR systems, they don't have all the financing that they need, they may not have all of the communications ability from a sales and marketing perspective. So there's a need to work on their business in order to be able to expand, so that then as workers become available, or they can do a better job of attracting workers to their businesses, they're able to actually do that and be successful at it. Then we know that there's always folks who come up through the trades who start off after they get their journeyman license or whatever, they start working for an existing firm, but they have aspirations of being an entrepreneur and starting their own firm. But they may not know how to do that. Like they know the trade itself, but they don't necessarily know the business side of it. And so what we're proposing to do in Section 11 with funding at the $180,000 level would be to stand up 2 cohorts of 12 businesses each, 12 that are existing in business already doing this, but want to pivot and or expand. And then 12 that we would identify as folks that are maybe in an existing business, but they want to start, or they could be like fresh out of college or fresh out of the trades, and they want to start up from scratch, and work with those individuals, those business owners, in a cohort model where there's peer learning going on, there's content delivery to them. In many cases, that content might be delivered over Zoom, because many of them, their offices are in their trucks on site. So over the lunch hour kind of things, we would work with how do we fit it into their schedules on these core business components of what it means to be a successful business, the nuts and bolts of the business work. Then we would also offer each of those business owners some one-on-one personalized coaching services over the course of about an 18-month period. So we're offering this because we have a very robust business coaching program already. We have 10 C-suite level coaches who we're currently working with 22 business clients. Those businesses are in the ag and food and forest product space. Renewable energy is one of the sectors that we can work in by statute. So the intention here is to stand up and design a cohort-based, along with one-on-one, specifically for this need that needs to get addressed, so we can build the climate workforce. It's not just building the climate work for the workers, it's the businesses that so that they can expand and they can attract these workers and then retain them and have the workforce that they need to actually service the clients and the growing demand for renewable energy installs and weatherization installs.
And this is already happening in large measure because it's begun to happen with Efficiency Vermont. It's certainly, we understand that 3 out of 5 fuel dealers are already upskilling and training their technicians to install heat pumps and to do all the work that's involved in renewable energy and installation.
Correct. And our training is not for the workers. Our training is for the CEOs, for the business owners, to help them improve their overall business acumen. What I can tell you from having worked with now probably 80 or so businesses over the last 10 years is that there's a basic not understanding of the basic finances. Sometimes they can't understand the difference between their balance sheet and how it talks to their P&L. They don't necessarily budget year over year. They don't necessarily plan year over year. They don't have HR systems in place. They don't have employee manuals or any kind of evaluation procedures that can help with retention. They don't pay attention to their business culture. There's just any number of things that are sort of the core nuts and bolts of running a successful business that are lacking. And we saw this in spades during the COVID period, and it continues. And it's been something that we've identified that we've been working on since the mid 2000s.
This is something you specialize in.
And so the business coaches that we have, who are people that have been in entrepreneurial businesses, they've started them, they've sold them, they have been in C-suite level positions, they are the coaches that deliver the support and the coaching. During COVID, when we couldn't meet in person, we switched all of our client-based work over to this cohort model where we met every week, actually, because it was so chaotic and we needed to have that level of support for the businesses. In this cohort model, they found that to be extremely valuable because they could be learning from each other about how are they adapting, how are they pivoting, what was changing for them, what were they stressed about, what was working. We've gone back to our more intensive one-on-one coaching since then, but we have found that is a very valuable mode of delivery of content. So we want to marry that cohort model with the one-on-one because every business is unique. It has its own particular needs. Some companies are very strong on their finance literacy and others are not. Some really good on HR and some are not. So this would allow for a consistent content being delivered to these 24 businesses, but then the specialized one-on-one to go deeper on the things that they need to really work on.
And Ellen, how do we measure the success of this?
Well, I would measure it by how confident those entrepreneurs become in whatever they feel was lacking. One of the things that we do is we have a whole checklist of basic business, the kinds of things that you need to pay attention to as the business owner. And we have them self-evaluate themselves of how confident they feel they are in executing those basic business tasks. And then at the end, we have them self-evaluate how confident do you feel like you are now, and have some level of personalized evaluation. Because again, every business is different, but we will be tracking job growth as well.
And just,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure people have questions, but how long, what is the time frame on this training?
We're anticipating
This
about
cohort.
18 months.
And is this funding managed that for 18 months?
Yeah, the 180 would get us to the recruitment, the development of the actual content for this particular group of businesses, as well as then 18 months worth of actual time together.
And so we would want an update next year on how it's
Yeah.
doing and
Sure.
whether you'd want to continue it. Because obviously, I mean, if it's successful, I mean,
Sure, I mean, there is a universe, a
It's
defined
already-
universe of
yeah.
how many people are out there. And one of the key things is there has to be a readiness, a willingness to take,
yeah.
you know,
to participate.
to participate, to put the time in, to receive help. Not every business owner, unfortunately, is coachable. But the idea here is we would be working with those that were really ready to make this take advantage of the opportunity in the marketplace and be able to expand their business. But again, this is so critically tied with then getting the pipeline of young people wanting to go into the field to be ready as well to then when the businesses are ready to expand, that there's workers to hire.
Great. Any questions?
A couple. So on this, the JFO, it says 60,000 in 2024. So the 180 is 3 years of 60,000.
Well, no, what happened was, what got passed in 484 was 60,000, but what came out of the appropriations bill was the 180 that we had originally asked for.
That is.
So what's in the appropriations bill, my understanding from talking to Representative Tolino last night, is in B1101, section D2 is the actual dollar figures. And then in F10, page 232 is the description of the program.
Okay, but the 60 is 180 now.
It is
Just for
actually
1
in
year?
the budget, yeah. Well, yes, because this is the kind of thing where, because we're actually gonna sign up businesses for an 18-month period, we need to
Right.
have all the money in hand up front, so that we can, we know we've got the funds to get them through the entire span of the
Okay.
program.
So the 180 will last 3 years.
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, the intention is to do it over 2 years.
Oh,
Section 10.
Yeah, I was gonna say 18 months is kind of.
Section
yeah.
10 envisions a 3-year timeline originally.
Mhm.
The original concept was 3 years, but we're gonna be focused on doing this over 2 years.
And
Right.
section 10 is the public education.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is
and
that you also?
No, that's
No,
Tom
that's
Cheney.
somebody-
That's Advanced Vermont.
That's Advanced Vermont, when we're gonna hear from Tom.
Can I just
later today.
say one more thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
So I'm a local government person,
Yes.
and a lot of small towns also have challenges with HR and finance.
Yes.
And we've been kind of batting around an idea that it would be really helpful to somehow stand up agencies that you could pay for these services that would just do those services, business administration type services. So we, at some point, maybe, we could talk about that more, or.
You mean
Or-
sort of like a fractional HR person, a
Yes,
fractional
yes,
CFO
yes.
kind of a person as
Yes.
a separate business?
Yes.
Yeah, that would not
So-
be our shop, but
Okay, well,
but
if you-
happy to talk through like
Yeah.
options about how to get the word out more about that as
Right.
an opportunity.
And because if they could serve private businesses as well as local governments, you would just have economies of scale though there.
Sure, I mean, the coaches that we have only been in business.
Right,
And
right.
so there is a specialized nature
Oh, totally.
to doing that, and so that's where their expertise really lies.
Right. And I wouldn't suggest that those coaches do it. It would just be something,
Sure.
like a long-term,
Understood. Yes, yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I mean, many of the businesses that we work with are not big enough and profitable enough yet to be able to advance to hiring, say, a controller level or a CFO level person, or to have a full-time HR person. And so there is absolutely in business across the state a need for more individuals who have that experience, who can be a fractional for multiple businesses.
yeah.
Okay, I need to move us along.
I'm done.
Great. Thank you, Ellen. This is terrific. Randy, did you have anything else? Because we need to move to
Question,
Catherine.
any of the businesses that are involved in this program or envision to be involved have any relationship with the flexible capital fund?
I don't think so, no, because those are more advanced and they have what they need.
Okay. thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank
This
you
is
very much.
terrific.
Appreciate it.
Great work, as always.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, please. Yes. Should be fun.
So,
Thank you for the efficient coming out.
Yes.
thank you, my dear.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Catherine, you are on deck. So Catherine is speaking, I think not solely, because we're gonna have Pat Moulton in, I hope at some point. No, we're not. We're just gonna hear from you.
Not today.
Not that-
Just
yeah, I-
just me today.
Oh, well, there's nothing just about you. So we're going to look at sections 13, 15, and 16 with Catherine, which are the, just to ground you, they are in the certificate of 3D technology, which is a new program, a new certificate that they'd be offering at the Vermont State Universities. Section 16, which is the critical occupations scholarship, and 13, which is the restorative justice Bachelor of Arts. So Catherine, take it away.
Thank you, Senator Clarkson. So for the record, Catherine Levasseur, Director of External and Governmental Affairs for the Vermont State Colleges system. So section 13 deals with a proposal to stand up a restorative justice program. What we currently have within the system is we have a criminal justice program, and then we have a restorative justice concentration. And what we are proposing to do is stand up a bachelor's program, which would be the first or one of the first restorative justice programs in the state and also in the nation. And this dovetails both with some community needs around restorative justice practitioners in schools and community settings in the criminal justice world, as well as so it dovetails with state needs and also with our goals around delivering workforce for the state. So the funding request attached to this is for the startup costs for the program, as well as initial scholarships to generate interest in the program. What we are doing is building on our concentration. So at the Linden location, currently NVU Linden, we have a concentration in restorative justice that is and we've got partnerships with the Caledonia County District Attorney, with the St. Johnsbury Work Camp. And so what we're hoping to do is build on that and be able to deliver a fully fledged bachelor's degree. There are many reasons why different community groups, schools, et cetera, don't necessarily always want to hire criminal justice trained individuals. They'd rather hire somebody with a restorative justice background. And what we're seeing is that it's a growing need and a growing demand for our graduates that have that training. But by being able to stand up a standalone bachelor's program, we'd be able to further deliver on that request and on that community need.
Catherine, your volume is sort of diminishing as time goes on. So it's not on our end. It's, as Scott says, it's on your end.
Does this help holding my mic a little closer to my face?
Okay. And just, sorry, I was dealing with a page. You mentioned even though this is a new program, it builds on not only your program, it also builds on other justice law enforcement trainings that you have in the Vermont State College system. It also ties into the law school program
It
of
does.
restorative justice. So it builds on some sort of
A pathway.
yeah. And so even though I'm just going to note this for the committee, though, even though this is a new program and we're being asked to really weigh seriously adding any new programs to our scene here, it's one that at least dovetails closely with work that we're already doing and actually expands capacity and answers needs currently. So I just wanted to make that note. Any questions on section 13?
Are there any statistics that show what the number of jobs in this area compared to the number of jobs in conventional law enforcement?
Right.
There are some statistics. I don't know if they show specifically that because this is a rather new field, which is why there are not existing degree programs, and we would have to stand up a program from scratch. What we know is that substance abuse, behavioral disorder, and mental health counselors predict a 17.7% job growth through 2028. And many of the individuals who graduated with the restorative justice concentration are already working in the social services and behavioral health fields. So this is programs like the Northeast Kingdom Youth Services. We also know that there are active employment postings for restorative justice related work. And the occupational market for a restorative justice practitioner, there was some research conducted in May of 2021, and there were nearly 50 jobs posted in the state of Vermont seeking with that job title and seeking this kind of training and this kind of work.
How many did you say?
50.
Yeah.
50.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
340 in New York, 25 in New Hampshire.
But 50 here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Just-
Wendy.
How many students per year would this be? And does a program like this become self-sustaining financially?
It does become self-sustaining financially. What we are seeking is the initial startup costs. So to design a new program, we have to bring faculty on board to design the program array and the courses. And then once you start enrolling students, it becomes the cycle of tuition covering the program costs. But because this is a brand new program and because there isn't necessarily an existing model to build on, we would be starting from scratch. And so it does take a period of time to establish all of that and to onboard. And we're seeking the assistance with the startup costs.
So Catherine, when would a course be offered? What's your start date?
Yeah, so we're currently offering the concentration courses. So a handful of courses that make the concentration. We would need to build out the full curriculum, probably 2 years to build it out and enroll students.
And this 700,000 is good for 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're not, okay.
And
Any
there was
other
a question
questions?
about head count, and it looks like we're looking at cohorts of about 15 students. 15 to start. And then one of the beauties of the design of the new university is that it's scalable.
Right. Right.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Well, this is Vermont State Colleges,
Right.
and we're adding a new course with a college system that is being required to cut $5 million in costs a year. And I just want to make sure that we're not going against, that this is,
That
the
this is
board knows
manageable?
what's going on and that we're not, yeah.
Right. Catherine, would you be kind enough to speak to it? Because that is the elephant in the room.
Yes, I would be happy to. And the way that the legislative requirements are written, we have to reduce $5 million in structural costs or increase revenue. And adding a program like this that there's a market demand for is one way to increase revenue. So the conversation about transformation is not just about cost cutting, it's about sustainability, and it's about ensuring that the colleges are in a stable financial place, but also continuing to deliver on the state's workforce needs. So I see
And so-
adding an additional program as a benefit in this area.
And so just to build on Ann's question, what do you expect the revenue increase would be over time?
I don't have an answer to that because it would be tied to tuition and, number of students in the program, et cetera. I could ask
Yeah,
for
no,
some
it's-
financial modeling.
Great. So given our time frame, I'm going to move us along to sections 15 and 16 because we have a group ready to go on some other sections. So
Yes.
Catherine, if you'd be kind enough to address the 3D technology, which is also a new program.
Happy to. So this actually, if you have heard of the Advanced Manufacturing Center at the Randolph campus, currently Vermont Tech Randolph, the Advanced Manufacturing Center is part of the Vermont Manufacturing Collaborative, and it is this really incredible state-of-the-art entity. And so they're building infrastructure and partnerships that support businesses in advanced manufacturing technology, as well as helping to build the skilled workforce needed by those businesses. And so what the advanced manufacturing does, we did the ribbon cutting last year and finalized the construction of it. We received a U.S. Department of Defense grant to establish the center, but we have one of the only ones in the Northeast. And so we're becoming an anchor place to do trainings and to come to for this specific kind of training work. So what it does is it supports the full product lifestyle from ideation to production. And so businesses and students access design digitization, metal and polymer, additive 3D printing, advanced manufacturing, heat treatment, post-processing, and so much more. What we are trying to do is build a pipeline of interest in advanced manufacturing. And so the concept of the certificate in 3D manufacturing is to target K through 12 or 9 through 12 high school students, bring them in, have them experience the Advanced Manufacturing Center, take courses that they receive college credit for, and then they leave with a certificate in 3D technology, which we are told by some of our employer partners they would value as a credential on an individual's resume as they are seeking workers in this field. But I think it's really important to understand that advanced manufacturing is more than just standard 3D printing. You can do things like take an airplane propeller part, put it in some of the technology, and get a full X-ray readout of like flaws and deficiencies that you would never see with a naked eye, like internal to the part. You can like cut an engine block in this. It's really incredible additive and subtractive technology. And we've got the center at Randolph. We just have to build the pipeline of individuals that are trained and able to go out in the workforce and support our manufacturing partners and the businesses in Vermont. The concept of this certificate is to start that conversation early, pull them in, they leave with college credits, they leave with exposure, and they're workforce ready at the time they leave high school, or they can build on that with additional manufacturing credits and leave with an associate's degree or later a bachelor's degree.
That's great. One of our field trip ideas has been to come to
Yes.
see the Advanced Manufacturing Center, which we need to do.
You'd
So
be happy. to
that
host
would be
you.
great. And I'm just going to have you continue on to section 17, and then we'll do section 16, and then do questions briefly before we turn to serve, earn, learn.
Yes, so section 16 deals with critical occupation scholarships. So these are scholarships that the legislature has funded for the last couple of years. They are last dollar tuition scholarships. So this means that they are applied after state and federal gift aid. And so they ensure no out-of-pocket cost to students. So these are really the funds that students are paying out of pocket or taking out loans to afford their education. The concept that the House Commerce Committee rallied around was the idea of limiting household income to put this at a lower dollar amount, as well as limiting the programs to the ones where we've seen the most growth since the institution of these scholarships. So to give you some examples, our clinical mental health master's program has seen a 68% increase in program enrollment since these scholarships were instituted. And these are master's qualified individuals that are leaving our program and entering directly into the Vermont workforce, addressing an essential workforce need in mental health counseling. We've seen an enormous increase in our early childhood education programs, which we have everything from a certificate to a bachelor's degree in, as well as in our nursing programs. And 83% of our nursing graduates license to practice in Vermont when they leave. We've got an average age of 30 in the program. These are individuals that are established in Vermont. They're staying here. They're working in our home health agencies, our hospitals, et cetera. And so the $3.8 million is our estimate that we developed in partnership with House Commerce that encompasses the professions listed: clinical mental health, dental hygiene, criminal justice, et cetera. And limits adjusted gross income for the household to $75,000. So it mirrors the 802 opportunity program.
Okay, just thank you, Catherine. So good. Great. Do we have any questions? Team SED. Once we are today.
That's
Team
fine.
SED. Great. Catherine, thank you very much. This is very helpful. And this builds on the critical occupation scholarships we appropriated last year in S11.
This is another year
Correct?
of funding.
There's another year of funding, and it was, just give us an update quickly on that. We have that that we were brought, but I believe it was all, that was used up pretty fast, right?
Yes. So we've exhausted the funds that were appropriated for the last 2 academic years. And this would be for next academic year.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find that quickly and I can't. That's what I thought. So this is refunding what has already been a very successful program. I wish we had the money to do the tracking of these students over time and see where they end up and what they earn. And
We are
where
doing
they-
some investment in, as part of our transformation, we're doing some investment in institutional research so that we are better able to provide data and answer these kinds of questions. I'm
Okay.
not sure we can 100% track students all the way through, but we have been able to pull some interesting data. That's how I got the 83% of our nurses licensed in Vermont. We pulled some data from OPR and DOL and compared it to our
That's
student
helpful.
roles.
I suppose every institution of higher learning in some ways does this through their alumni giving programs, because they know where we are and they know what we give and they know what we're doing. They know everything, it seems. So thank you very much. We're going to pivot. This was great.
Thank you.
And I think we know about this one in particular. We know a lot. And the other two, we'll be discussing as we weigh approach's challenge to it. So thank you very much. And we're going to pivot to serve, earn, learn. Because we're serving, we're earning almost nothing, and we're learning a lot.
We're learning a lot, yes.
So that's what we do every day.
Learning counts.
Don't you think?
There's
That's
value.
sort of what we do every day. So it's great to have you back. Now that this program is up and going, give us an update if you would. And I think you may want, we have a new team here, and Senator Rahm, our chair, is off doing parental duty at the moment, producing a new baby, which is very exciting. So I'm Allison Clarkson, Windsor County District.
Ann Cummings, Washington.
Randy Brock, Franklin and Grand.
Wendy Harrison, Wyndham County.
So Wendy is, and Ann has been here before, but is coming back, but she hasn't been here on this program.
Well, I have been to big, I think it was graduation.
Resource graduation.
Oh,
Yes.
great, terrific. That's great. That's another field
At the
trip we could.
Granite Museum.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And Wendy is new to the Senate, which is exciting, and new to this committee. Randy and I are, we've seen before. So take it away. you have 20 minutes to update us and to fill us in on this ask.
Okay, I'll speak quickly.
So we're just section 8 of the bill. It's in our summaries and it's also on page, I will find it in a second. It's on page,
13.
thank you. Who knows 13? I know 13. It's on page 13. Thanks.
For
It's
the
good to have-
record, I'm Breck Knopf, Executive Director of Vermont Youth Conservation Corps. We all come in with agendas and ideas. I think we also come in as humans, and it feels fitting to wish Senator Ron Hinsdale the best of luck today. So I'll start on that note.
Good.
Yes, it's pretty exciting and miraculous to bring a new person into this world.
And brave.
And brave, yeah.
Tough time to bring a child into the world.
It's wonderful to be back with this committee. Serve, Learn, Earn partnerships had a really, really strong year, and we're excited to share updates and accomplishments and talk about our future. Serve, Learn, Earn is working. It's emerged as this essential, innovative, effective, efficient strategy. It's a strategy that has measurable and significant impact. We just sent in our interim report to Forest Parks and Recreation. We tallied up all of the things that we've accomplished in the first half.
Do we have a copy of that?
We
on
can
our-
send it to you.
Would you be kind to send it to Scott and we'll post it
Yeah,
because
great.
as we do our work, we need to.
To look at that, yeah. There's two sections to that. There's a narrative and then there's the appendix, and I think it's worth spending time in both of the sections of the report. Just a quick note that several years ago, in the depths of the pandemic, VUICC was thinking about how do we increase the number of paid service and training experiences, and it really became apparent that if we had partners in this workforce development space, we could be more effective, we could reach more folks here in Vermont, and that's how Serve, Learn, Earn came to be. I think our 4 organizations have different skills, yet work with different demographic groups and have slightly different programs, but there's a through line where we're all paying our participants.
And if you just be kind enough to remind us all. And
Yeah, so
and to introduce.
the coalition is Vermont Youth Conservation Corps. It's Vermont Works for Women, and Ronnie Baston's here as leader of Vermont Works for Women. It is Resource, and Andrew Jope will join us remotely from
Already
Resource.
there.
And Dave, Audubon Vermont, and David Mears is back here. So
David has your back.
David has my back, yeah. Really. So the through line between our 4 organizations and programs is that we pay our participants. And I think there's 2 main points to be made there. One is by compensating participants, it creates equitable access to the experience. You don't have to pay, you actually get paid. And it creates a real life situation. The best way to prepare someone for the workforce is to give them a job. So the experiences are very much structured as jobs. Over the last year, we've seen the strengthening of the Serve, Learn, Earn program in a few different ways. The number of participants is growing. We've expanded our geographic reach, so we're at new communities. The quality of the training and the number of credentials we're offering is increasing. Our partnerships have expanded. One I'll mention with VYCC, we partnered last year with Vermont Huts Association, and we built a cabin in the National Forest. I mean, it's really a small house, if you will. It's a 4-season structure that really increases outdoor recreation access. We've also raised a significant amount of private and federal dollars to augment state funds. And most importantly, we're connecting our participants with employers. And I think Andy will speak to that with some degree of specificity. I think it's helpful to think about Serve, Learn, Earn as a program that is filling a gap. So at VYCC, I'll offer some statistics to really define and elaborate on what that gap is. We work primarily with 15 to 24-year-olds. Vermont is the highest graduation rate in the country at 91%, and yet our high school graduation rate is 91%, and our college graduation rate is 38%. So there's a large portion of our community who's graduating from high school but not graduating from college. And we all know that even though you graduate from high school, you still and aren't going to college, you still need continuing education and training. And so that's one of the things that Serve, Learn, Earn does. I can offer some top line numbers to talk about and quantify our impact. This year, we expect to enroll 400 participants in our programs. With funding, in this upcoming year, we can enroll 500. All of our organizations have more applicants than we have positions for. At VYCC, as of last Friday, we had 340 applicants for 190 positions. So increased funding will allow us to fill those slots. And there's lots of reasons for that. We're
For
embedded.
how many positions?
Well, at VYCC, it's 190 and we have 340 applications. Just in the interest of time, the last thing that I'll say before turning it over to Ronnie is that we're training people for where the jobs are. And I have a letter from a collection of employers. And if you look at the employers on this list, you'll see that they represent different industries. So some are land-based, some are renewable energy, some are construction, some are outdoor recreation. And these are all businesses where we've placed our graduates into their companies, and people are appreciative because people show up, they're trained well, they show up on time, they're reliable, they work well with other people. And so there's a technical skill development, but then there's also, quote unquote, the soft skills that are needed to be successful in the workplace.
And if you just be kind of giving, you're doing it over, if you could specifically address why 2.4 million is so critical for you to keep this program going for another year or two, or I don't know how long this money is expected to last.
1 year. So what we do is we take those funds and we channel them directly into direct expenses related to our program. So that's wages, it's transportation, it's risk management, it's recruitment, it's marketing. Those are the things that are needed to enhance the program.
And what is the total cost, all four organizations together? What's the total cost roughly of Serve?
If I had to put a number to it, I'd probably say it's north of $15 million. It's been, I haven't looked at.
50 million?
No, 1.5.
Oh, one, I was gonna
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
We are requesting a $2.4 million appropriation.
Which is more than the cost of the program.
That's less than the cost of the program. But the
I
cost.
thought you said the total cost of the program was 1.5.
No, I said 15.
Oh, I'm clearly having some hearing issues this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
Okay, 15.
So
Okay,
that's a
great. Okay.
ballpark. So we're asking for a fraction of that.
Yeah,
We're asking for more in this upcoming year because we want to enroll more participants given the need. We are grateful that it's come out of the House at 2.4 million. We are requesting that given the strong track record that it be included in the base funding. So that would be a shift from the one-time funding that we've received to ongoing funding given the effectiveness and the need. So if you would consider that, that would be greatly appreciated.
right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a document somewhere that is base versus one time.
Okay.
And it is not included in the base at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
They would like it.
So I'll pass it around.
Great, and you've sent everything on, if you're gonna send the report to Scott and all your letters, so we can have them online.
Yeah.
For our, and these are the companies that you have, that have
Those are just,
benefited
those are
with-
just some. Yeah.
with graduates,
Yeah.
graduate employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and please invite us all, this committee, all the economic development
Yeah.
committees and education committees get to graduation again, that's great.
Or visit a crew at Marsh Billings or.
Let us,
there's any number
yeah,
of
I do that all the time.
opportunities to engage.
So let us know,
Okay.
keep us in the loop. Great, and who
Gonna
do you
pass
want to
the
have
mic
on
over
deck?
to Ron.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
Randy, I'm
please.
sorry.
Of each of the organizations, are they separate nonprofit organizations?
Yeah.
And each has a 990?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and those are all published.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Thanks. I'm so focused here, I bet. give a shout out. Ronnie, welcome.
Well, hello, and thank you for having us back. It's exciting to be here. I'm Ronnie Basson, the very proud executive director at Vermont Works for Women. And just a brief overview, Vermont Works for Women has been in this space since about 1987, really working to recruit more women into non-traditional trades industries, work to support women in being retained in those industries, and also work at the systems level to really work towards long-term gains around diversifying our workforce and dismantling stereotypes for our youth around entering this workforce. But even though we've been doing this work since 1987, the fact remains that women are underrepresented in the fastest growing, highest paying roles in Vermont. We are still seeing less than 11% in our career and tech centers. We're seeing less than 4% in any of our actual tools in hand jobs. There are more desks if you look at any of the agency or construction sites. And we're still not seeing the increases that we need to on the business and employer side. Ways that Vermont Works for Women in collaboration with Serve, Learn, and Earn is we are running a handful of different programs to really combat this from 3 different ways, starting with our youth programming, just to build curiosity. Let's build confidence. Let's get welding equipment in girls' hands. Let's take them to the tech centers. Let's expose them to what's in their backyard that they really can do, even if they don't see it. Those youth programs, which is Rosie's Girls, they now run in 13 different communities from Brattleboro, Rutland, Barrie, all the way up to St. Albans, Franklin, and then now we're expanding into Newport early next year. Then we work with women in what we call our Trades Trailblazers program. So this is a free 7-week program. It runs on nights and weekends so that women can also still continue to work or take care of children as well, but it's also a paid training opportunity. So in 7 weeks, they can come out with credentials in construction, plumbing, electrical, weatherization, and heat pump install.
And what's the name of that program?
Trailblazers. And Trailblazers runs as a cohort model. So we run a cohort in different communities, and currently we're on 5 this year, and those are expanding into next year. The demand for that pre-apprenticeship is growing. So it's open to any woman or gender expansive individual 16 plus. There's no requirement and there's nothing they need to do enrolled except to show up and be prepared. That's also paired with a work experience with a local employer. We do not ask the employers to pay to this. We pay the women to do the work experience, but that gives them the job exposure. It gets them on the work site and it gets them working with employers in a more direct way to start dismantling maybe some of those challenges or barriers that have prevented them.
So of the 400, because our time is short,
Yes.
but of the 400 participants now in Serve and Learn, how many are they delegated to each of the 4 programs, or do they participate in all 4 of your programs? And how many participate with the Vermont Works?
Trailblazers this year, by June, will graduate 80 women in our program year. And across organizations, so the brilliance of Serve, Learn, and Earn is we've had participants that have graduated Trailblazers and then gone on to work on a VYCC crew or opposite, or gone on to do an additional training course through a resource intensive. And that's the brilliance of kind of bringing these workforce programs together. They're not working against each other. They're really building those stackable skills that make people just more job ready. And specifically with Vermont Works for Women, we're tying in that gender equity lens so that we're really preparing women to have a voice, feel confident, know that they have support, but also really making sure employers are building those motivating and supportive environments and hopefully eventually working ourselves out of the job in that sphere, that it just becomes more natural to work towards a diverse workforce.
Right. And on your adult education piece, you're also working, Wendy, to go to your interest in corrections.
Yeah.
I first met Vermont Works for Women and TIF when they were working in the Windsor prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
The women's prison, training them in all of the trades, construction, plumbing, electrical, carpentry, all of them. We went to I went to at least 2
Yeah.
affordable homes being
Live home
installed
program.
in Springfield as a
Yes.
result of that program. which
We are
is great,
eager,
but
we are
doesn't-
eager to bring that back. As you know, we won't get into the facility discussion with CRCF, but we're eager to bring it back. And in speaking of how Serve and Learn has allowed us to grow, but it built partnerships. So we're now also working with OEO on the Weatherization Training Center. And part of that is, can there be a mobile unit to train people? Can it go to the corrections facilities?
We invested in that last year. There is a mobile unit. And
Yes.
we're going to hear about it in a few minutes.
Yep.
So thank you very
Thank you.
much.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. man, sorry.
You've been around for a while.
We've been around for a while.
How many of your participants are employed in the trades?
So we're still seeing low numbers of just women in general, but when we look at our rate that go to employ from our program, we see about 79% going into trades work. I'm also going to put a very big caveat on that, that there's a lot of reasons women aren't going into these fields. And so transportation role and childcare remain some of the strongest reasons we don't see women successful in these roles. If you're having a woman install a solar panel 15 minutes from her child's school and they get a call, it's just not an easy way to retain somebody. So that's a lot of the ways that our organization is also working with employers to drive policies and practices that can better support that.
Okay. We're being asked to put a lot of money in, and, you know, they go from you to you to you. But I guess we're also investing in a lot of other things that should help women, like childcare. But at some point, I think you have to say how many people actually end up gainfully employed, not necessarily in the trades, because a lot of the skills are interchangeable, but coming out of the programs 3 years, 5 years down the road, how many of the graduates are employed? And then we'll say employed in Vermont.
Yeah, well, that's the
I
biggest
think
goal.
yeah, but I think that's the information we need to.
Well, and I can tell you right now that part of the way that all of our organizations try to work is we're catching people who are falling through those gaps. You know, there are a lot of ways that people can go directly from high school or another job, get trained and go to those, but the people we're serving are not following those pathways. And so we're really trying to get those that, and we have to really collect this potential because our workforce needs it.
That's fine, but that doesn't ask my question, how many end up employed at
So
the
we're-
end.
After a year of being with our program, and they don't have to cross over all the programs,
Right,
they can stack
right,
skills and
yeah.
do it, but our goal is to get them into the job as quickly as possible. And so we're seeing 79% of our women who graduate go directly into trades industry roles.
But I think her question is how many graduating from Serve and Learn are employed right away?
Trailblazers is part of Serve, Learn, and Earn funding. So that would be the same number. It would be 79% of our Serve, Learn, and Earn
That's pretty
participants.
comparable across the board. I mean, Andrew will speak to this.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that's a
We okay to pivot to Andrew then to hear hear some of that? Okay, great, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And we can follow up. Sadly, our time frame is tight. Andrew, would you be kind enough to join us? And is Andrew your last witness,
David.
correct?
David.
Oh, and David for last. Okay, great. Hi, Andrew, welcome.
You're muted.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I know we're tight on time. I'm testifying from Williston and I have F-35s flying overhead, so it could get loud in the next few minutes. I hope it doesn't. But good morning, everyone. Thank you to the committee for inviting me to testify. My name's Andrew Jope, and I've served as the training director of Resource for the past 18 years. Resource's mission is to empower individuals and strengthen Vermont communities through workforce development, poverty relief, and environmental stewardship. I'm going to cut down my remarks because I know we're tight on time and I think get down to what I think of the heart of the matter is here. So we have a skilled worker problem in the state of Vermont, and I'm sure you all know this. The COVID pandemic led to a precipitous drop in labor force participation. It's rebounded somewhat, but it's still about 9% below pre-pandemic levels. This is mostly due to our demographic challenges. Quite simply, we have more Vermonters aging out of the workforce than are entering. And we have about a 10,000 person gap in our labor force relative to employer demand. So the priority of Resource and the collective here, Serve, Learn, and Earn, is to train and prepare workers who are not now in the labor force, but want to work. And so you've heard both Ronnie and Breck say that we're filling gaps. We are identifying and training and engaging people who are not currently working, but who want to work. In 2023, Resource expects to train close to 400 individuals through more than a dozen different programs that we run all over the state, from Newport to Springfield to Bennington to St. Johnsbury. in addition to our brick and mortar facilities in Burlington, Barry, Hyde Park, and Williston. Our workforce development training programs deliver industry recognized credentials to participants and place graduates into good jobs. We have a basket of programs that we call our trades intensives. Those are 6-week programs similar to what Ronnie was just describing, with a work experience component. And we offer those in the fields of construction, weatherization, HVAC, and logistics. And last year, we had over a 98% job placement rate with average started wages of over $18 an hour for graduates from those programs. This funding is allowing us to expand those programs, and we are now planning to run 20 such intensive programs across the state of Vermont this year. You may know Resource as well for our youth build programs that we run out of Barry and Burlington. We work with surrounding towns and school districts to serve disadvantaged youth who want to complete high school, who are not being successful in their traditional high school, and also want to learn trade skills and earn a diploma in a hands-on way. These students learn while building affordable housing, weatherizing homes, and building public facilities. Again, that's the serve, learn, and earn model. And they're motivated to learn because the work they perform is improving their communities, and the pride that this work generates is life-altering. And with further funding, we're ready to expand our youth build program to other parts of the state. So I would just wrap it up by saying that we're proud to be a part of the Serve, Learn, and Earn collaborative with VYCC, Vermont Works for Women, and Audubon Vermont. We are collectively dedicated to enhancing, increasing the number of paid service job training opportunities in Vermont. We believe that paid training and service experiences empower young adults and people who are currently disconnected from the labor force and are essential economic strategy for Vermont in filling that 10,000 person labor gap. And we're at 10 o'clock, so I will start there or stop there and invite any questions.
Right, we'll ask questions after David's done. So that's
Okay.
great. We'll that would be great. David, it is good to see you.
Good to see you, Senator. For the record, I'm David Mears, the Executive Director of Audubon Vermont. Pleasure to be here. Audubon Vermont is one of those, if you remember Sesame Street, kind of one of those things that's different than the others, not necessarily what you think of in a service learning coalition. But we started a youth leadership program several years ago because we are seeing shortages in professions that are important to the overall advancement of our mission. Teachers in environmental and outdoor education, people in the rural working lands community, whether it's farming or forest management, resource ecosystem restoration programs, public agencies, in the same way that other professions are facing shortages and shortfalls in workers, we're seeing that. We also realized that we were not, in our programming, really, we were abandoning teenagers and people in their early 20s at points where they're making critical decisions about their careers. And as we began to think about how were we going to invest in building this program, we were delighted to learn that Breck Knopf and VYCC was instigating this Serve, Learn, Earn coalition because it gave us a chance to join as we build this new program with experienced, proven leaders in this arena. And it's paid out dividends for us because we've learned tremendous amounts about how to do our programming and how to be more effective. And when I think about the role that you all play as stewards of the public fisc and needing to make tough decisions about how to be responsible by making those investments, I'll just share my own experiences that this has been tremendous, both in terms of the success for the young people that are participating. It turns out that when you pay people, particularly young people, and you give them important work that's committed to broader public service, something bigger than themselves, it forges a sense of professionalism and a sense of commitment to the work that then plays out for the rest of their career. We're hearing from employers across all spectrums that one of the challenges is having people that know how to show up for work and bring that kind of basic level of professionalism. That's something that is a soft skill that all of our groups work together to present. And we do that through shared programming. One of the, just kind of given that time short, I'll just cut to kind of the rough numbers and why I think this is a good investment. First of all, the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps, which is a longstanding relationship with Forest Parks Recreation, is essentially part of the state government. They have long been an investment that the state has been making, and we're able to fit within that that framework. So there's no question that there's fiscal responsibility. There's a relationship, longstanding experience with Department of Forests and Parks. So this is not like giving money to a random set of nonprofits. Secondly, we have no interest in being the only, the end of this story. We're looking to build this as a model for something that will become part of a workforce development program that really does permanently fill a gap within the state of Vermont's workforce development needs. We're so delighted to have the support for the last couple of years. And as we look forward, part of the reason that we're asking to be in the base budget is that we think in order to build this as strong as it could be and to really attract the long-term funding from the private philanthropic community and even from federal agencies, we need some long-term funding to make the commitments and investments necessary to pull that off. So that's the basis of our request. We don't see this as a one-time investment. We're in this for the long haul. We're trying to build a coalition that we hope to build over time that will fill in a void in our system right now. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
I just have a specific question on Audubon. How many, so we've heard a little bit about each of you individually in terms of your organizations, how many kids are coming through? You're similar 15 to 20. This is sort of the age we're addressing, right, roughly?
15 to 24 for
15 to 24. David, where is Audubon fitting and what kinds of work? Give us a sort of a picture of the Audubon aspect of this.
Sure. We have training for educators. We have internships, and we have camp counselor and training program. The camp counselor trainings focus more on teens. The internships program are people in their early 20s. We have a high number of those people that are going into public teaching jobs in Vermont at a moment where there's a crisis.
The 1,000 teachers we need tomorrow.
Right. So that's been 100%. We can't supply that category of folks fast enough. We have a collaborative program we do with BYCC in which we support their forest program.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to expand that to support their farming program as well. We have interns in conservation, interns in policy. We have youth programming that's done in collaboration with the University of Vermont. We hope to expand to include a program around bird-friendly maple with Vermont Technical College. We have a new program, a youth conservation tech program that's working with teenagers that gets teenagers that are interested in doing conservation work, gives them a dim sum sampler version of work across education, conservation, communications, and outreach over the course of a year, where they take their vacations from school and spend them working for us. And it has turned out, and just so that regardless of what you decide going forward, you should take credit for the fact that we are putting money in the pockets of young people and giving them serious work skills. I mean, it's awesome, and it's important that we ultimately get them landed in jobs. That's our ultimate goal, Senator Cummings. But there's also the immediate benefit of giving them jobs right now. And it is amazing. I've been working in the environmental field forever, and it has forever been a challenge to have a broad, diverse base of people that participate in this. By offering paid positions instead of just asking for volunteers, we're seeing a tremendous mix of socioeconomic backgrounds and perspectives being brought to work in this area. And the energy and passion that they bring is transforming our own organization. So there's
great.
It's a bunch of soft skills.
Your career has been educating people at one end and now at another.
It's true.
Very interesting, because David was, as you know, professor at the law school before, so our connections to the law school. Any questions that we have for the team here?
Just a comment. I worked with the BYCC folks at Retreat Farm years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was just great.
Yeah.
They were wonderful, and the intensity that you're talking about was totally there. And those soft skills are so important. I mean, people really need to just show up at work. If they're not going to show up,
Don't
call.
steal. That's what I used to tell my kids. Show
Yeah.
up on time, don't
Don't
steal.
steal.
Yeah.
They'll teach you everything else.
Yeah, no, so I'm interested in, we probably can't have the conversation now, but just how that these four organizations happen to get together, and if you have a long-term plan, you're talking about federal funding, if there is that sort of document, maybe we already have it, but it'd
No,
be great.
we're still right in the beginning phase of building that.
So, yeah, because this started, Brett came to us first with, it wasn't named Serve and Learn yet, but it was the sort of the early stages when Tim was pro tem. And this was Tim, you and Tim worked on this. I mean,
Yep, keep
am I
going.
wrong? Yeah, yeah. So I believe this was in like, 18 or 19.
Yeah.
I feel like the
It has
first
started
time.
those conversations.
And then
exactly.
Serve and Learn came on deck as a fully gelled project, 21, I think, or
2021,
22.
yes, yeah. January 2021.
So that, and we can get you the history of that,
Yeah.
but that's really where it began, and where this committee's been, we've certainly been supportive of it from the beginning.
I don't know if it'll turn into something like the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board ultimately, but I'm imagining that, this could be the kind of quasi-public, philanthropic, federal, state, private funding that really fills this gap permanently in the state of Vermont. We could be one of those innovators that builds something that serves, and that really should not be an ideological or partisan issue. That really is building
It's not,
this shared workforce that we know we all desperately need.
right? Well, I think unless we have other, Randy, you have a question?
Just a question, organizationally, David, is this the Green Mountain Audubon? What is it called?
The Audubon Vermont
Yes.
is a part of the National Audubon Society and is distinct from the Green Mountain Audubon Society, which is a chapter. It's a subgroup of part of our organization.
The Green Mountain is a subgroup of your organization.
Correct.
But your organization is, what is it called nationally?
National Audubon Society.
National Audubon Society. And then are you an effective chapter of that, or?
We're like doing business as National Audubon Society, and doing business as Audubon Vermont. So each of the states has a state
As
office.
a DBA, okay.
Yes, because
Thank
Kim was, we had on our list, but that's where we.
Got it.
Green
Yeah,
Mountain
she's
Audubon
the central
Center.
director.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So I think if we have further questions, we'll probably get them to you, but I think this is good. Is this a good start for us?
Yes.
Ready? Okay,
Thank
great.
you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and well done. We're sorry that.
Thank you.
This year, very short
Go, go,
window on our
Yeah.
work. So we're trying to be efficient and get as much knowledge crammed into our little heads as possible
Thank you.
in as short a time as possible. Thank you,
Thank you very
mucho.
much.
Hi, and remind us.
I'm Kristen Warner, I'm the policy manager with Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility.
Oh, great. That's right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, but Vermont.
Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility.
She is the new face of Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility in the state house. Okay, Cam and Michael, we have two things that we want to do with you today. We're going to pivot to the Department of Labor. Yeah, come on. So we're going to kill.
if we talk about policy.
We're going to, what's the new, more correct thing? Instead of killing two birds with one stone, we're going to,
Plant 2 flowers with 1 seed.
we're
my
planting
gosh.
two flowers with one seed. Or there's another one too about bread, I feel like. Anyway,
Be
We're gonna-
efficient.
we're
Two-
gonna be-
two- A 2-for-1 sale.
we're going to do a 2-for-1 here.
Yeah.
So we would just briefly like to talk about you as commissioner, because we need to get your confirmation in front of the Senate. So I think we'd just like to begin briefly with that, with why you still want this job.
Do you still?
Do you
want it?
still, yeah.
And do
you
you still want this job? And if not, who are you suggesting? And the second piece we want to address is what's in this bill and what's not in this bill.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot that's not in it. And I think we also, at the same time, that dovetails into an update on the programs we invested in last year in the Workforce Development Bill in S11, the regional workforce expansion. And
Yeah.
so if we can do all three of those things, or at
I'll
least
be-
get a good start on
Yeah.
them, that would be great. So if you wouldn't mind beginning with why you want this job,
Sure.
is I think a start.
So for the record, Michael Harrington, Commissioner of the Department of Labor. Maybe I'll just start with a brief background. I was born and lived in Southern Vermont for a number of years. My mother remarried. Some of you may have known my father, Bob Harrington, was on the radio down there, spent some time in the State House, but did 44 years at the local radio station in Bennington. I did my college programs at SUNY Plattsburgh. When my mom remarried, we moved right across the New York border, literally a stone's throw. And following that, my first real professional job, I kind of bounced around a little bit, but ended up working as a chief student affairs officer at Paul Smith's College.
Oh, I love Paul.
It's a beautiful place. It's a little remote. And so eventually I needed to move back to the metropolis that is Bennington. And I worked for my family's company. My mom started her own business and ran her business for 32 years as a business consultant, doing organizational development, employee training, executive coaching, strategic planning. So I worked with her for 3 years, and we worked with companies large and small, as big as Coca-Cola, as local as Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, local chambers, other Vermont companies and national companies, and even some companies up in Canada. And then I was asked to apply for the Bennington Director for Economic and Community Development. So I worked in that role for a number of years as the Municipal Director for Economic and Community Development. So was able to build some really great friendships and partnerships with in and around state government through that role. Honestly, by way of looking to relocate to central Vermont for other family reasons, began looking at other opportunities and was put in contact with the commissioner at the time, Lindsay Curley. I would say that at no point did I really, growing up, contemplate being the head of the Department of Labor. Wasn't necessarily a field that I think someone thinks about often. And so when I started with Commissioner Curley at the time, the focus was really a need on organizational development within the department. And so working on everything from building a really positive and value-added culture, implementing processes and other activities that engage with our employers and our customers and constituents, and working on overall department performance. And I've really, when she and I talked during the interview process, really hit it off because we thought a lot the same way, and felt that those, in order for us to do our best work, we really needed to invest in our people who were doing that work. And so that has stayed true. And Lindsay was moved over to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development in September of 2019. I indicated that I was interested in the position. It was a much different world in September of 2019. We were still focused on workforce, but we were focused on how do we engage with employers, how do we provide education and technical assistance, what are some unique and innovative ways to build our state's workforce and in a employer-driven model. So identifying where the gaps were in various industries and occupations, and work to build our workforce. And then the pandemic happened. And so a lot of things change. I know way more about unemployment insurance than I ever thought I would through our time in the pandemic. But I think what I've come to love is not only the mission of the department, which is to improve the lives of working Vermonters, but also the people I work with. So, policy is a portion of what we do. Administering these various programs is a portion of what we do, but I think really improving the lives of the people we work with, the companies we work with, but also even our staff. And I think the focus has held true over the years that we're really wanting to build a department that values its employees, that is focused on quality, efficiency, that morale is where we want it to be, and employee engagement is where we want it to be. But I think at the other end of that is making sure that our constituents, our customers, see us as a value-added resource for them, not just an enforcement agency. I mean, we can talk about enforcing things like misclassification or child labor laws or whatever, but I think at the end of the day, we all agree, and even just the conversations we've had as a committee, you know, the majority of businesses are out there to do the right thing. And it's usually they find themselves in a situation simply because maybe they don't have their own accountant, or maybe they don't have their own legal team. And coming from my mother, who operated a small business, I know exactly what that's like. So I think we need to position ourselves as a partner with businesses. And yes, the enforcement piece is probably a necessary component of that to ensure compliance. But at the end of the day, we want voluntary compliance. We want employers to do the right thing because they know what the right thing is to do. So I am interested in continuing to serve as the commissioner. I think we've got a lot of work ahead, but I think it's exciting work, both internally and externally. We've got a big challenge as a state with our workforce. And some of that falls under the Department of Labor, but I think we also know that some of the biggest challenges we face in our workforce are being driven by other factors like affordable housing, affordable or available childcare, things of that nature. So, being part of a larger solution for moving Vermont's economy forward is, I think, exciting. So I'll pause there and see if
any questions. No, I have a question, which is I'd love an example of something you're proud of when you talk about that you focused on quality and the experience of workers because the culture at DOL has been a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that's been no secret. If you could give us an example of how you've improved that culture, either.
A lot of things were changing. Now we do.
So it's on Zoom?
Yeah.
And how many employees does DOL have?
DOL has about 230 at any given time, roughly anywhere. At the height, I think we were close to 180 to 200 staff that would jump on for that meeting. It's not mandatory, because they have other requirements, so it's not always the same staff, but I think in general, most staff have jumped on. I think we average somewhere around 150 to 170 people on at any given time. Again, it just depends on the time of year, whether programs have other things going on at that time. So I think that's one. I am proud of the staff and the work they did during the pandemic, but I think other things that we've done. One of the things I did when I was deputy commissioners, we started a commissioners council that has kind of fallen away only by way of the pandemic and through other capacity related issues. But that was something I was really proud of. It was a small group of employees that would get together monthly to talk about department-wide issues and make recommendations to the commissioner's office. We have a very active merit committee.
And what was it called again?
The Commissioners Council.
And are you thinking of reactivating it?
Yes and no. I mean, it may not look the same, but I think we also have other committees now. So we also have a very active merit committee, which we didn't have at the time. So they served in a role of a merit committee. We also are doing a lot of work around staff engagement and staff appreciation. This year we will have a large staff gathering, which we haven't done in a long time. And then we're
How big parks available?
Yeah, and I actually think, so what we're gonna try to do is bring, we have staff, roughly about 100 staff that work in the field. And we'll be bringing them to the department. One of the things we're actually wanting to do is give staff the ability to take a tour of the State House. Because some of our staff are young and never been to other parts of the state. So I think it's really great for them to not only come to our central office, but really see the State House. So we're focused on planning that. I think we've also, we're looking to make key investments in key roles. So I'm really excited about a recent hire we made, which is our first ever equal opportunity and accessibility manager. So we actually have someone now in a dedicated role that focuses on equal opportunity and accessibility within our programs. And some of that is to ensure federal compliance in those areas, but I think beyond that, it's really making sure that our programs are accessible to individuals.
So it's the equal opportunity, equal
Yep.
accessibility and opportunity director?
It's called an equal opportunity and accessibility manager. She works in our business office. There are a couple federal requirements that I mentioned that we have to comply with around equal opportunity as it relates to WIOA programs and some other factors that fall under the EEOC, the Equal Opportunity Commission, and the Federal Civil Rights Center. But beyond that, I think we're committed to saying there's what we're required to do, and then there's this going beyond that and really looking at how our programs are available to people. So everything from are our notices and the communications we sent out written in plain language? Are they offered in multiple languages? How do we provide services and connectivity for individuals who are hearing impaired or visually impaired? So there are a lot of different areas that don't necessarily fall under the federal requirement, but that we can improve on. And some of that came out of the pandemic. I think some of that was a gap we saw heading into the pandemic, but things took a turn. So.
Actually, I do have a couple questions. So the communications, do agencies get together and talk about communications? Because I just see a gap there.
Yeah, so yes, probably not as much as we should, but under this governor, there is a communications, I don't know what they call it, the team that really pulls together a meeting of communication professionals on a regular basis from all the various departments and agencies to talk about, clear strategies on various things. But I think individually, I find that most agencies and departments are really eager to partner with one another on various things. So, we'll partner with whether it's Agency of Commerce or Agency of Education or Agency of Transportation, depending on what the item is.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably one other area has been a priority for me, which is not only how do we communicate with our staff so they feel engaged, but how are we communicating outward? So we have had, for as long as I've been there, one communications coordinator. We've now added a second communications coordinator, and we may even look to add a third communications coordinator because we have so much content out there in our workforce development division about the various activities and we put on. But then the way we communicate in unemployment insurance with businesses and claimants is also is heavy in terms of the level of communication, but it's a very different type of communication. And then looking at things like workplace safety is another area that falls under us. So there's a lot of outward work that I think in terms of education awareness that we want to prioritize.
Right.
Yeah, and then we should pivot.
Okay, just two quick, I think quick questions. How much of your department's work is federally federal versus other?
State. Probably the best way to define that is through funding. So prior to the pandemic, we were roughly 85% federally funded. Because of the funds that have come to us for things like modernization and advanced unemployment administration, which is either general fund dollars or ARPA dollars. If you take that and you don't count that as part of our federal base funding, I think we're more at like 60-40 now, 60 federal, 40 state or other. But I can send you our budget document, but it breaks down between federal general fund, special fund, which is like our workers' compensation program through a fee structure, gets funding for the program through special fund, and then interdepartmental transfer.
Okay, and then just getting back to the employee, and just morale.
Yeah.
Do you do surveys?
We do
periodically?
surveys. We have a standing opportunity for individuals to submit feedback through, a suggestion box, which is kind of like the basic of the basic things you can do. But actually, one of the things we recently started within the past 2 years is when a new employee joins, we conduct both an in-person orientation with them when they start, which was kind of hit or miss prior to this. We also, within the first 90 days of them starting, we do what we call a stay interview. So even I conduct stay interviews of employees, but the key there and my focus was to have senior leadership members doing the stay interviews of employees. So every new employee has a stay interview that says, how is your first, 30, 60, 90 days been?
So that's it within the first 6 months.
Yeah. Yep. And then when an employee leaves, we have an opportunity for an exit interview. And that exit interview can happen in one of two ways. Either we have a direct exit interview with them where it's face to face and we gather feedback, but there's also just a general opportunity, and we send them on their, before they depart, a link to an anonymous survey that they can complete.
I think
And the state does an annual, actually, I think every 2 years, the employee engagement survey. So we actually pull a lot of the data on employee.
HR does that.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We get that in GovOps. In fact, we
good.
have that if you want to come look at
Okay, thank you.
Great.
I just sent you the budget presentation. It's a slideshow and kind of does some breakdown of the different divisions.
Okay, great.
it. Great. Did you send it to the whole committee?
Send it to the whole
Perfect. So,
On the policy and the money, right?
yeah,
That's
so
all.
let's pivot. So
Yeah.
thank you. We're going to vote on your confirmation and hopefully we'll be up on Friday and we'll present you for
Thank
confirmation.
you.
on
I
Friday.
appreciate it. Thank you very
Yeah, well, it's, we got so into housing, we
much.
forgot about our confirmations, but Scott has kept us back on track. So
He's,
Scott and Keisha have
Yep.
reminded us. So what we'd like to do is look at what is in the workforce development budget, which is very modest, and look at what was in S11, and we'll walk through, remind ourselves what we did there,
Yep.
and find out what you really want and what is not in the workforce development budget as it's been presented, or workforce development bill as it's been presented to us. So if you could take it away
Yeah, I'll
and
give it a-
discuss those things, that would be great.
A very general overview. This year, we put forward two specific proposals. One was a one-time ask of $1 million for work-based learning. All that is a continuation of the work we've been doing, but it allows us to serve more people. So as Allison, Senator Clarkson knows, one of the services we provide is when someone is involved in a work-based learning, we have the opportunity to pay for some of their wages.
So is that, just for the new members, that's apprenticeship, remind us what that is.
Internship, on the job, training, returnships. Sarah used to always call them the ships. But there are opportunities within that where we can work with an employer and help cover the employee's wages, as well as some other expenses related to the work that they're performing and the learning that they're performing. So the $1 million is more about serving more people, and the more funding we have, the ability we have to provide more of
And
that.
how many people did we serve from last year's round?
I have to check. I don't know if we pulled that.
That would help us. So that, as far as I can tell, because we're looking at sections.
Yep.
I don't know what sections we're looking at. We're looking at in the current bill, DOL. I'm just gonna cruise through this and look, because it's
as you're doing that, I'll also mention, so it also.
There is no money put aside, I believe, in DOL.
Correct. So that was one ask. The other ask was $200,000 for New American work. So again, giving the state a little more flexibility outside of the federal funding we get for New Americans to help us do more outreach, engagement, and provide some support.
And that goes a little to Wendy's question. They have federal money for New American work, but you need state dollars to do what?
So
what does state dollars
so
liberate?
this 200,000, yeah, so this 200,000 would actually flow through the department to the state workforce board. And they are looking to contract out, again, things like outreach and education, promotion of different training opportunities. I think, Cameron, you probably have the email there from Tori, who's the executive director. It essentially highlights it's an expansion of the work that's coming out of the refugee office at AHS, which I think Tracy Dolan has presented before this committee before. But the 200,000 would work to expand the outreach. So I'll read through. Expand the enrollment of New Americans in registered apprenticeship and other training programs leading to credentials of value. Conducting recruitment and job placement activities for New Americans, supporting the collection and publication of employer-focused toolkits and resources, building a network of career mentors for New Americans, developing opportunities to expand professional networks for New Americans, and other activities focused on entry, retention, and advancement of New Americans in Vermont's workforce.
So none of the two programs that the commissioner was talking about was not in the workforce development bill that the House was putting together, H484. This was just put into the budget.
So those were our two asks. The part that we want to share today is there was a program in S11 last year that came out focused on called the workforce expansion pilot.
Right. So that is what we would love to have an update on.
Yeah. So it was $1.5 million, 750 per year over 2 years. We, starting in July, started going through the process of obtaining the limited service staff that were assigned to that project. We had to classify them appropriately, and we stopped just short of hiring them and determining which regions we would be covering. Because there was additional work coming out of the oversight committee. And I think we had talked with you and Representative Marcotte about the fact that we may want to align the expansion work with the recommendations coming out of the oversight committee and the vendor we're working with.
You mean with our SOCWID committee?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That is what I referred to earlier, which is looking at how do we better coordinate statewide all the programs. So you had a great example today of an uncoordinated program, the server environment. There's no, they don't report to anybody. They're not tracked by anybody. They are outside of so we have workforce development. I'm sending this.
No, it just
so
kind
that's
of random.
So Michael, so DOL and I and Marcotte are serving on this. What we created last year, a task force to look at how we do this.
Okay.
And so you're suggesting that we not continue the workforce expansion until we.
Correct. So we still want to move forward with the workforce expansion. The idea was we would put these, we'll call them navigators, in pilot regions that would help link up employers, service providers, and job seekers as kind of, again, this coordinator or navigator in those regions to keep people from falling through the gaps and hopefully provide the string or the glue that pulls all that work together. We have begun to identify which regions we might want to put those staff in. So under the bill, it was funding. It was also 4 positions, 1 supervisor and 3 specialists. Again, we had begun to move forward with the SOCWED, the oversight committee, and we're talking about different strategies for engagement in communities. And I think that's where we were like, we don't want to do something and have recommendations.
Okay, so we don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Correct.
So we're going to hold on expansion until we figure out. what
I think,
we're doing
well, I
with
think we
summer.
would like to see the recommendations that come from the consultant
Okay.
that came out of the oversight, that are coming out of the oversight committee. Those may help inform and guide the work of the expansion.
Or was there money set aside last year?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
What
So
was the amount like?
it was 1.5.
Yeah,
So it was
we-
750 per year over 2 years.
And
That
not
was spent.
expended.
Yeah, and we spent, I think, roughly $15,000 of it. You know, the big expense was when we hire staff, right? Their salaries would go to that. I think what came out of the House was an interest in pulling back or clawing back that funding and reappropriating it to the $1 million ask for this year and the $200,000 ask for this year. So that's why it's not in the budget packet, because there's a section in the big bill that says they would essentially take back the remaining, it's like $1.2 million from the expansion program to fund the $1 million in one-time ask and workforce expansion funding that we put forward
The
this year.
work-based learning.
And yeah, and the 200,000 for New Americans. I think our position has been, we'd like to do all of that, right? We'd like to continue the work of the expansion pilot. Once we know a little bit more, we would also like to have $1 million for work-based learning efforts and the 200 for refugee work.
So right now, so this is a classic example of our challenge.
Yep.
So right now, that ask, which is basically a workforce ask, is embedded in your budget in appropriations. Is that
Well, right
correct?
now, the ask doesn't essentially exist because the
Well, where
ask,
is the 1.2 million?
so,
Did it make it from the House to the Senate?
no.
Okay,
Yeah, so
so that's our
Yeah.
question is this, we are
Yes
your
or no?
advocates.
Yes and no.
the
As
one-
we proposed.
Maybe.
okay, the 1.2 million that we were asking for in one-time funds this year is in the budget bill. It did pass the House. It's not in this workforce bill. It was put in the budget. What the House did was they are reappropriating funds that we received last year to cover the costs. And what we are asking for the Senate to do is to not repurpose that money, because we would like to continue forward with the programs you passed last year, the workforce expansion. So to fund our 1.2 million request this year with general fund dollars.
So,
For that
Yes.
clarification.
so you're wanting us, because you've spent like 15,000.
I think it's a little more than 15. We did
Yeah, I know.
some work with our LMI. The first thing we had to do was issue some reports through LMI about these different industries and different CTE areas. So we did spend a little bit more than that.
So
I was
you
trying to
think you
pull up-
like roughly 1.4 million? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say, we haven't spent a significant amount of those dollars to date. correct?
Okay. So got that. So that is, sorry, Wendy.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask about the New American program.
Okay, but before, let's just
But,
clarify
yeah.
this. So, got it. So they're clawing it back to pay for your current ask.
Correct. They want to essentially defund the expansion program to pay for our current.
Right, or we could refund the expansion. I mean, one option
Yep.
is, of course, claw that back for this year for active use and then reappropriate when we know exactly what we want to do in next year after we pass.
Isn't it one-time money?
That's what you said.
Was,
Yeah, I mean, I think
the
you're saying that.
1.5 was one time.
Yeah.
money.
It was one-time money for a 2-year, spread out over 2 years.
For 4 people.
Correct. And I think the
Yes.
biggest challenge there obviously is, without longevity in the program, it's really hard to find staff.
Yes, because this was ARPA money,
Yeah.
and so you're wanting to keep the ARPA money for that work as
Yeah.
opposed to then having to use general fund money in the future. Thank you for that clarification.
So I think we would, our hope would be that the recommendations from the oversight committee, come out sometime later this spring or summer. And that would essentially just help inform how we move forward with the expansion money, if we kept the expansion money.
Now, if there is a choice between the two based on budget limitations, which is more important?
Good question. Probably, I think just knowing capacity and the ability to get dollars to people, it'd be the refugee money and the work-based learning money, because those systems already exist. I think if we, if we move forward with the expansion program, we'd still have to hire staff and essentially build the program. So we're still looking a little bit far out from that.
That's helpful. Any other?
Well, just a little tiny bit more specifics on the refugee program.
Sure.
Did you say you would, what is the program that already exists?
If you want more about the proposed program, I'd just encourage the committee, if they have time, to bring in Tori Fiandolillo, who's the executive director of the Workforce Board. But the current program that exists comes out of the state's refugee office.
Okay.
And the director of that is Tracy Dolan.
Right.
Tracy used to be the deputy commissioner within the Department of Health.
And she now is our queen of.
Right,
Yes.
right. No,
So again, but again, a lot of that is very federally prescribed. There's, I think we know one of the solutions to expanding our workforce is bringing in new Americans of all categories. And so, being able to have more very targeted outreach to them on a workforce front, because Tracy and her team or her office focus on everything from, where are they going to live, making sure they have the right supports, translation services, and Department of Labor has come alongside that work to say, how can we help place them in jobs? So there is some foreign labor or new American work that we can do under our current funding, but it's not enough, and it's very prescribed because it includes federal dollars.
I don't see it.
Is that the big bill or is that the workforce bill?
This is, it's all in the big bill. This is the workforce pieces from the big bill that we're responsible for.
And that's where, Madam Chair, that's where I think the disconnect is, because the new American and the work-based learning was not part of the workforce bill
Right.
that the House committee.
But our job is to,
Do you know what
Yeah,
section
all
it
of
is?
that
Do you know what section it is in the big bill?
it is, we don't have it. So that's one of the questions we have. JFO is coming back to us with
Great.
all the economic.
We may have the section, so we can also just send you the section as a reference for when you talk to JFO.
So anyway, I don't have time while you're
Yeah,
here
yeah,
to
sure.
find it in the written bill, but it may or may not exist in the sections we've been given.
Yeah.
I don't think it may, so in all fairness, it may be in David's piece here, Wendy and everybody, this piece. It may be.
Oh,
here,
yeah.
which is not in the spreadsheet.
Got it.
Not all of it is in the spreadsheet, and DOL, yes, it does right here, right at the top. It's FY.
Okay.
That was easy. It is the funding reversion and reallocation.
Yep.
So if you look on David's, this side by side,
Mhm.
it reallocates within DOL the 1.2 general fund from the regional workforce expansion system in Act 183 to 200,000
SDWB.
to the state development workforce,
Okay.
state workforce development board, slightly misdone, and to $1 million for the work-based learning. So that is here, but not, this is our job in the next few days, is to try and pull it all together.
Sort it all together.
So thank you, that is very helpful. So
Happy to answer any other questions you've got now or at another time. Thank you for having me.
and you have any, no, Randy? Great.
All right.
I think that's super helpful.
Great.
And much appreciated. And Jay is, anything Jay would add for us on workforce on this?
I don't think so. I'd asked him, he had hoped to be here this morning. Unfortunately, he had a conflict that he couldn't move. They're happy to come in, I think
Okay.
tomorrow or early next week. I think at the end of the day, we've testified.
Yeah, no
I
worries.
have a little pieces of information I'll try to get back
Great,
to you all
So-
on the new Americans and some numbers.
right. Okay. Terrific. Thank you. And, it's just interesting. So we have just heard two presentations, the server and learn
Yeah.
and this work-based learning. not dissimilar, in some ways serving similar populations. This is why we need better coordination on it, because, and
we, just so you know, we have been engaged with Serve, Learn, and Earn in the past.
yeah, no,
So,
I know you have,
yeah.
I know you have.
Yeah.
And the question I have is, it would be great to know the numbers, just, I think we asked that, which is of the million that we, on the work-based learning over the last year.
Yeah.
It would be just great to know how many apprenticeships, internships, and internships we serve.
Yeah.
Which would really help us. So, okay,
Absolutely.
great.
On the confirmation thing, I would just say, thank you for your consideration. It's been a true pleasure working with this committee over the years.
Well, maybe not always.
There are tough times, but I think in general, we
Yeah.
enjoy working together. So thank you very much. For your
Very
consideration.
kind of you to say that, because
Absolutely.
we've had our thorny moments.
Yeah. Under pressure, that's what happens. So,
Often.
yeah, thank you. very
Anyway,
much.
thank you both. Great. So committee, we have 10 glorious minutes of a break, but I'm going to ask for a vote on our confirmation first. Mistress Clerk.
Oh, I need a piece of paper. Okay.
This man is like so on top of it. I have to say, Scott, super helpful to have the sections on the agenda, because I didn't have to look at looking them up as we talk. So thank you very much for helping make your interim chair here look better than she actually is. So, and hi, welcome. You are whom?
I am preparing some computers to National Bank. It's Bankers Day.
Oh, it's Bankers Day at the Dome. Welcome. It's good to have you.
Isn't everyday Bankers Day?
Well, yesterday was,
Bankers hours are nice.
yesterday was Credit
Yeah.
Union Day, so it's great to have you.
It's fun.
It's great. Okay. So we have, it had to go down to one of those regions that they were talking about expanding these.
Thank you.
Why?
Nothing.
So today is.
Right, the all eyes everywhere. Thank you, Randy. Okay, so I would ask that we take a vote now on the confirmation. I would recommend that we confirm Michael Harrington as the Commissioner of the Department of Labor.
Okay, Senator Brock,
Yes.
Senator Clarkson,
Yes?
Senator Cummings,
Yes,
Senator Harrison is a yes, and then
I think we will,
We
I will
just do-
text Keisha if she wants to weigh in, but I think she is not able tonight.
Probably busy.
I
Really?
think she is busy, so I'm just going to take this as a vote for right now, because
so just
I haven't
do
even heard back
do a
from my
blank
earlier.
or something.
it has.
So it's
401.
401. She's missing, it. It's just that she's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Congratulations.
We'll be back when you need us.
Great, we are on break until